So I'm going to start here. Hi everyone, welcome to this morning in Brighton. It's nice and early here. I'm going to talk to you today about esports for everyone, and the future of esports is accessibility. I'm going to talk a lot about competitive gaming and esports and all the world that is in between, and also what it matters for a developer if you have a game or you want to develop a game and target the esports audience. So I'm Simon Sunden. I've been working with esports professionally for about 5 years. I've been a fan for about over 10 years, but professionally for 5. I was previously head of esports at MTG, who later acquired ESL and DreamHack. And right today I work at a company called G-Loot. And our vision is to create a trusted esports platform where players can win real money in the most popular games they play and love. And we launched a couple of sister products with the G-Loot Cup and also an upcoming cup for other games as well. But enough about me. I'm going to talk about esports. So the first thing you need to ask yourself if you're developing a game or whatever you want to do, are all games esports? Is being a competitive game not enough? Because when you look at it, what is esports? Esports comes from the word electronic sports, which means that it's a sports. You have everything when it comes to football, you have tennis and everything where it's broadcasted. It's broadcasted live on TV. You have different divisions, you have spectators, you have fans all across the world. You have everything from Manchester United fans to Millwall fans and everything in between. So, do you really want to become an esports in that sense? Or is the word a little bit more broad than that? Because when you talk about esports today, you're basically talking about competitive gaming. It has been the same thing now. Oh, you can compete in the game and can compete against others in the world, then it's an esports. But it's a little bit more complex than that. If you look at it, I just took a couple of games as an example here when it comes to how big are they, how casual are they, and how skill-based are the games. So here you have the slide casual, and towards the end to the right you have skill. And here you have how many monthly active user that game has. So as you can see at the top you have a game like Candy Crush Saga. They have multiple games, hugely popular. But I wouldn't call it a really competitive skill-based game. It's a very casual game. People play it all the time. They play it on the metro, they do everything. On the other side of the spectrum, you have a game like StarCraft. Widely considered one of the most competitive and hard games ever created, StarCraft Brood War. Blizzard is even making a StarCraft remaster right now that is coming up in exactly 1 month. And it's also the game that kicked off the popular esports world in Korea, in South Korea, where they broadcasted it. But you have a big area in between. You have mobile games that are huge, racing games like Hill Climb Racing 2. Is in the area in between. It's casual and also skill-based. You have games like Clash Royale, hugely popular, but RNG-based. League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Rocket League, and all these kind of games. A general rule is the more hard a game is, the more skill-based it is, how more competitive it is. It has more, it can become an esports much easier. But it's nothing that is set in stone. And I usually put it in red and also green because there are some games that cannot become esports because the game mechanics are not there. It's too much luck-based. It's too much of random chance, and it's just a fun game, or it's a single-player game. So everything is not competitive. And if you look at it, it's also even, sorry about that. It's also defined in the legal sense. I don't know if anyone have heard of it, called the dominant factor test. Anyone? It's very popular that they have in the courts in the US, where they say that skill has to be the dominant factor. And I put an example of Tiger Woods. Here I took in Roger Federer because it's Wimbledon now. A professional tennis player such as Roger Federer could be expected to beat the casual weekend tennis player. There's a slim chance that a professional might lose, but as a dominant factor is skill, not luck, the event would not be deemed gambling. A 5 versus 5 game in Counter-Strike is nothing within gambling at all. It's just pure skill. Who is the best? Who is the best team? But this is very good to know because there are some areas within the world, especially in Poland, where the lawmakers have problems defining what is skill, what is gambling, what is a fun game or not. And especially if you want to put in prize money into your game. So that's that. If you look at it, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So, is esports all about sports viewership, or is it something more? Does everyone know these games? Every one of them? Maybe not the two at the bottom, or this one, Clash Royale from Supercell, the most successful mobile company in the world. The game on the right side is from the Finnish developers. They have a game called Critical Ops, which is kind of like a FPS shooter on mobile, hugely successful and is growing fast. And it's also a good competitive esports game. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds launched in March as early access, so it has not even really launched yet. Has so far sold 4 million copies for €30 each, and is huge. And then you have the classical Counter-Strike Global Offensive, one of the top tier esports titles. Which of those games do you think have the most viewers online watching stuff? Wrong. It's PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. Yep, it is. You might think that, the top esports game in the world has the most viewers out of them all. That is actually not true. If you look at it, Counter-Strike is actually on 6th place on Twitch last month. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is number 2. Look on the right side. This is viewed hours, total amount of viewed hours. There's going to be a kind of a world championship in Counter-Strike this July, so it will probably surpass and become number 2. The number 1 is League of Legends, and has always been that for about 2 or 3 years or something like that. But you can also see something fascinating. It's not always about viewers. This is the peak concurrent players from official Steam stats. Here on the bottom side, you see PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. Here you see Counter-Strike Global Offensive. There is something happening there. And one of these games is not an esports yet, if you're going to be hardcore about it. One of these games has no prize money. One game has millions of dollars in prize money. So that's why I want to challenge. You don't always have to be the biggest, most grandiose $1 million esports title to get the players or the viewers. It's enough to be a really competitive and fun game. And this is the case for it. In 3 months, I think in about later part of this year, it will surpass Counter-Strike when it comes to number of players, which is fascinating for a game that is not even launched. It's just in early access. So, and this is the thing. I don't know if you can see everything here, but I'm going to go through it. And this is the thing when it comes to competitive gaming and also what comes to esports. When you look at this, you see to even become an esports, you need to have a competitive game. You need to be able to fight each other. It could be a random opponent, it could be a friend, it could be anyone. That's the first thing. The second 3 parts is to even become a viewership-based game, you need something like challenges, challenge your friends, you need tournaments, you need some kind of winnings, you need a bracket system, anything there. And then you also have spectator possibility, watchable, sponsors, teams. That comes way afterwards. There are some games that totally skip the core competitiveness. And that's why you see them as popular streaming games. I think there was a popular game called Friday the 13th a couple of times ago on Twitch, which was popular. But then it's more like the casual YouTube gaming experience where you want to watch it and watch your favorite talent or streamer play that game. But if you want to become an esports, you need to take all of these steps. And you need to take them way before you look at the last part on the right side, TV distribution and expansion. There are very few game companies that actually earn money out of esports. Esports today is a marketing cost for a game developer. You put in money as marketing to get more engagement, to get more users, to get them more to come to you. League of Legends model with the League of Legends Championship Series is a totally perfect example of it. They put in money because they want engagement and so on. It's just now that they started to take in some money from TV distribution rights, selling team spots for $10 million, broadcasting rights for hundreds of millions of dollars. Blizzard is trying the same thing with Overwatch. But those are maybe 2 or 3 game titles in the world out of thousands. So what you need to look at is how can you become somewhere here? And you need to start at the basics. Get everything going from the start, from the core competitiveness of a game. And some game titles, they stop after winning some brackets and don't care about the rest. Are they considered esports? Maybe. Not really, but kind of. They're competitive games. All games doesn't need to have viewership to succeed. It could be totally enough with just competitiveness and people challenging each other. There's also one thing, I don't know, how many of you here are mobile developers? Some of you? Mobile has a huge challenge when it comes to esports, and that is accessibility. For PC, it's really simple. You can go to a service like Faceit, ESL, or anyone else, and you can host a tournament. You're on a computer, you can sign up for a tournament, you can participate, and everything is fine and dandy. For mobile users, that's a pain in the ass. Because if you want people on a mobile phone to put up their phone and try to compete in a tournament on an external platform, on a website, it's shit. It's a shit experience. And that's why you see things like guides for 15 minutes just to sign up on a tournament page. This is the truth. And I love ESL I love them from the bottom of my heart, but it is a challenge. So for mobile games, you need to figure out that, okay, how can I put it inside my game? Because mobile users, they don't use 2, 3, 4 apps or a web page or anything else. And everything that you want to do when it comes to esports needs to be connected inside the game. There's a reason why Clash Royale has replays and viewership directly in the game and are not dependent on Twitch, YouTube, or those kind of services for people to watch the matches. Because it's so much simpler. You see the matches with millions of views. If you go into the game directly, boom, TV, replays. So that's the first part regarding esports and everything. The second part is also how can we actually monetize this? Because I am a strong believer that you can actually monetize esports as a game developer if you're really smart. You can actually earn money on the way, and you can do it in a good way. So this is pretty much how it is today. This is a simplified explanation of the esports ecosystem. Please note, it's a simplified explanation. You have game developers like Riot Games, Blizzard Entertainment, Valve. You got streams and talents, Twitch, YouTube Gaming. You got companies like Microsoft Mixer popping up as well, tightly connected to Xbox. And then you have streamer talents that are so big on their own, huge superstars on Twitch that attract millions of users, kind of like the PewDiePies. Then you have professional teams, multi-million-dollar teams like TSM, Cloud9, Fnatic. They have multiple players and they have sponsors themselves that are going into it. Then you have organizers. ESL is the biggest one in the world. DreamHack, PGL, and those kind of organizers. And then you have the sponsors. Classic ecosystem, how it works together. The sponsors is the bread and butter. Then you also can have some TV rights and stuff like that. But if you look at it from a more view on how the money flow and the ecosystem works, you can look at, this is an example of economy from an esports organization. Where do they get their money in from in percentage? And here you can see that the big majority of it is from sponsorships. Companies like Red Bull, Monster Energy, Intel, AMD, Razer. They sponsor to get exposure when it comes to viewers. Pretty easy. Then you also have game developers. Game developers, oh, I need to broadcast the World Championship. I need to hire the best of the best. You go and pay an esport organizer to run the tournament. They can run the league, they can run everything. But it's a huge, big bread and butter when it comes to revenue towards the esports organizers. Then you also have distribution rights. Twitch didn't become #1 on the internet by just being viral community. They also became #1 because they acquired every single freaking esports tournament rights in the world. Twitch, local TV stations is popping up now. They pay money to get the exclusive distribution rights for their tournament. And then you have tickets and merch. A little bit smaller part. It's growing, but still a smaller part. This is an example. But if you take one step back, later today history will be made within the esports world. Anyone know for what? I don't know if anyone knows about it, but it's a really fascinating thing to see. And it happens every single year at July around the same time. What? The International 2017 will become the esports tournament with highest prize pool ever. Today, it will surpass last year's prize pool for $20.7 million and become the biggest one in the world. What's so special about this tournament? Does anyone know? Yep. As a total, Valve puts in $1.6 million towards the prize pool. But the total prize pool is $20.7 million. How is that even possible? Well, they've actually monetized their esports tournament. They've already made about $77 million from their so-called battle pass for their World Championship. And how this works is quite simple. Fans can purchase a special battle pass, including a compendium, for the World Championship of Dota 2. And 25% of that money goes towards increasing the prize pool of the tournament. So you can actually backtrack that. So they increased from $1.6 million to $20.7 million that happened today. It's just because of the fans that bought stuff in-game and wanted to support the big tournament and the battle pass. And one way, they made $77 million from that, which is kind of nice. It doesn't matter if they spend $10 million of those dollars on making a world championship of it and spend it on production, they still make a lot of money for their things. And that's because the fans want to pay for it and want to support the community. You see the same thing in Counter-Strike, where they have special stickers, where the fans can actually acquire them for the world championships. So if you put up the money, people will help support the esports ecosystem. And this has nothing to do with what I talked before. If you watch this is going to be at the beginning of August, I think 7th to 13th of August in Seattle. It's going to be one of the biggest esports tournaments ever. There's one thing that you will notice in the broadcasting there. There is not a single sponsor. Not one. It's just Valve and their event themselves. And why is that? They don't need the sponsors. There's no Red Bull in the world that can put up $77 million, but the community can. Big difference. So that's where you see there. And if you look at it if you're a game developer, I just listed some possible income sources for esports titles. Some of them. First of all, there are sponsorships. Sponsors love to get exposure, but I think that a lot of game developers fail to realize that you can actually put in sponsors inside your game. That is especially true when it comes to mobile parts, because every single game is not an esports. I can take one example. We held a qualifier for a world championship in a fairly small mobile game. The viewership wasn't that high, but we got 200,000 people participating in the qualifier. That was more valuable to our sponsors than the actual broadcasting, because you get 200,000 people directly watching your brand. But you can do it with distribution deals, online streaming platforms, and also TV broadcasting. Adding exclusive content like helmets, in-game items, gems, coins, subscriptions tied to competitions. There are services today like ESCA, Game Battles owned by Activision, and Face It, where you just have a monthly fee where you can get extra services. You can participate in special tournaments, you can have better servers, better anti-cheat solutions. Why isn't there any real game developer that is experimenting with premium subscription? I think that a lot of fans would gladly pay a monthly fee to get premium services tied together with esports. Tickets and merchandise. Tickets from both online and offline events, as well as merchandise of game and team products. The problem with that is you need to be a fairly big game for people to actually buy tickets to the events. There's very few games that can fill an arena, or a hockey arena, or a soccer stadium. Then you also have the possibility of cash modes and tournament entry. Entry fees for tournaments, competitions, challenges, revenue from service fee and profits. Simple principle, I enter a tournament, it costs me $1 to enter the tournament, and then you have a prize pool for all the participants. And then you can take whatever profit there is high of it, or a service fee out of the winnings. And this is actually what we have done with one of the games that we're working with. It's a game called Madskis Motocross 2. It has about 500,000 or something like that monthly active users, so it's not the biggest one in the world, not the smallest one. We got about $16.7 in average revenue per paying monthly active users. That's what they spend. We had 5% conversion, and then you have a lot of players. People are willing to spend money for esports competitions if you just give them the good and right option for it. That's the thing. Don't be afraid of it. And what we can also see when we did the World Championship is we started with everything in the game with esports competitions. It went so good, so we actually launched a World Championship of the game. But the fun thing about the World Championship is we did just as the international, we did it so 10% of everything that people spent in the game went to increase the prize pool. What happened? People spent even more, and more players participated. We got more activity, more attention, more people spending. So the initial prize pool was $10,000. It went up to, I think, $21,000. So the prize pool pretty much we didn't have to put in because we got more money out of it. And here you can see also, this is the average how much they spent during that time period. As you can see, from 29th of October to the end of November was the qualifier period. And we see from the top players that they participated even more. And this is also one key thing about esports that people often forget. Esports is amazing when it comes to retention, because you will always have an end game in your game. Whenever you've unlocked all the tiers, you open up all the boxes, you finished all the levels and everything, what are you going to do now? Well, you can always compete. Become better, try out, win prizes, prize money, participate in a qualifier. And people are willing and they stay all the time. So what we've seen in this game is that the retention figures are amazing. People stay inside a game. And especially, it's much easier. PC game titles has a longer lifespan than mobile titles. But a mobile title today, the lifespan is pretty short. So if you can succeed within esports, you can increase the lifespan of mobile games quite a lot. And here's a video we did with one of the players at the World Championship that explains it. And he was one of the guys who was inactive for the game for about 1 year, but came back just because we added esports options. Here you can, I hope it can.
I'm Master 52, and I've been playing since the middle of 2010. People call me a legend. My name is James Lambert, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. Well, when that Mad Skills 1 started doing their worldwide tournament, you know, I started playing it, and I didn't even realize I was even good until I started playing worldwide and I started winning all the tournaments on the first game, and then I did really good. I think I won almost all of them up until the 52nd week of the Mad Skills 2. So, I mean, I've had a lot of wins, and, you know, I guess that's why people think I'm pretty good. I played a lot through college. You know, I had a lot of time, and then I graduated and had to take some time off just to focus on a new career. And, you know, I came back because someone texted me and said, hey, split your winnings with me. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, Mad Skills pays money now. And I said, I went and checked it out, and yeah, you know, you pay to play, but you can also win a lot, so it's pretty nice. Since the very beginning of March, I think I'm up almost $19,000. It took some time, so I played almost every day, you know, trying to win the races. For the qualifier for the World Championship, I put in about 3 hours a day, you know, staying up at night and losing sleep over it, but it was all worth it, you know, making sure you got that top spot. The thing I like about Sweden and the World Championship being out here is that I never thought the game would bring me out here. It's opened up a lot of opportunities, and I just love coming out here to see everything. It's a beautiful place, and you know, Mad Skills has really opened a lot of doors. And I'm been kind of mid-pack, you know, these last couple of days, and kind of underperforming my expectations, but I'm going to try to step it up and see if I can get at least top 3.
And this was the video. He came second, so he didn't win. It was a Norwegian guy who came number 1. But it's fascinating to see a real-life story of a person that is actually coming up and playing all the time. And this is a guy, he has never streamed in his life. When we did the World Championship, the game company Turborilla had never ever done a live stream before. They've never done it. But we managed to fix it both on streaming on Twitch and on Facebook. The numbers weren't that huge. I think we got 7,000 or 8,000 concurrent players, which was good for that game, but not hugely big. But the participation rate was much higher. 200,000 people playing and participating, which is really, really good. If you have any more questions regarding that part, what we've done, you can always ask me after this. But I would actually just open up for question here and thank for me here. Any questions?
One of you described the pie chart. I think I missed something you said there.
This one?
Yeah, this one.
Yep.
I didn't get how game developers, maybe I just missed what you said, how game developers generate revenue on that. Is that just the revenue from selling the game there, or is that?
No, this is an esports organizer. So say that I want to start a new company in Sweden where I host tournaments in different games. I want to host games in Smash Brothers, Rocket League, Battlegrounds, Counter-Strike, and those games. And I want to host events, esports organizers. Okay, where does an esports organizer typically earn their money from? And this is an example from one of them. One big part of it is money they get from game developers. So a game developer like Riot Games or Activision Blizzard pay me money to host a tournament in that game. Because for the game developer, that is good marketing. Because I'm going to host a big tournament with thousands of people coming into my local town. That is good marketing. But that's why it, for an esports organizer, is a big chunk of the money you will get.
Thank you.
And a lot of esports organizers also earn money because they're white labeling. So every single world championship you see, even if it's whatever, there's always an esports organizer working in behind, just like an event organizers, to making it run smoothly. So they get money white labeling. Good question.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
The player is unknown battleground.
Yep.
I saw something about it. That's the one when you go against everyone else, right?
Yeah.
How skill-based is it really? Is it really as skill-based as other games, or is it something a bit different?
So, regarding skill-based, that's why I try to say here on this slide regarding how much casual, how much skill is a game. So, every single game is not StarCraft Brood War, which is so freaking skill-based, there's no elements of chance at all. What is popular about a game like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds or H1C1, is the same kind of game, is pretty simple concept. You got 100 people dropping off a plane and they go into an island, and then there's going to be one survivor. It's kind of like Hunger Games. That's why it's called Battle Royale mode, if you watch it. It's an interesting concept. It's a very fascinating or fun way to do it. And you got to find a weapon, and then you got to shoot the other people. Is it skill-based? Oh, yes, it is. Because you have two different skill sets you need to understand. First of all, you need to have the basic loot mechanics on how can you find the good weapons fast. You need to have a perfect game sense on getting to know where are the other players, because you have 99 more players that you need to kill. Do you want to shoot them first, or do you want to kill each other first? And then you also got to have the accuracy and the movements of it. There are some elements of chance, of course, but it's still widely considered a skill-based game. But it's the same thing as, look at a game like Hearthstone or Clash Royale. There is elements of chance in those games as well. But they're still considered skill. Hey, take golf, for example. It could be, if you're at the beginning of the day, it could be perfect weather, sun and dry, and then it starts raining. The participants at the later end of the day have a huge disadvantage. It's still considered a skill-based game. Any more questions? I think we have 5 minutes, or I think it's lunchtime now after this, right? Yeah. So I can take 1 or 2 more questions before lunch. Everyone's sitting here quiet, enjoying Brighton. But if there's no more questions, I'm going to be here, so you can come up to me and ask questions. But other than that, thank you so much, and have a great day here in Brighton.